We are live here talking Hawkeye football for the next hour to hour and a half, depending on the response this evening. We are 24 days away from the start of this season. As you can see, I'm not in at my home base, but visiting some family this evening. But not going to stop this discussion that I hope everybody can be a part of. I'm going to open the phone lines here in a little bit. It's been a while since I've hosted just a regular Hawkeye hangout show with all of you without a special guest. So this is going to be interesting. I always enjoy having the football personalities, whether that be a former coach, specifically Coach Patterson's always a joy to talk with, but former players we've been blessed with talking with some in the media. And so now we're going to be getting down to the nitty gritty here in the coming weeks. So we're with you for the next hour, hour and a half, depending on response. And yes, coming up, your chance to win tickets to the Iowa State Fair. We'll be giving away, well, it depends on the number of people we get in here. The more people we get, the more tickets we're giving away. All right. So if you do the math on that, excuse me, if you do the math on that, please share this show out on social media. Take a moment. All right. Take a moment. If you're here, thank you very much for being here, but share this out on social media so other people can be a part of it. Get a little bit more light in here. That's not going to be great. Gives me a good shadow here. All right. A little bit better. We'll work with it. This is my setup for this evening, so we'll have to be flexible. Again, please share this show on social media. If you enjoy the content that we're producing here from the Hawkeye of the Storm throughout the offseason, throughout the season, if you're just joining us, if you haven't been here for Iowa football season before, if you subscribed maybe during the offseason, you are in for a treat this season. Not because of me, but because some of the personalities that are a part of this network, specifically Coach Don Patterson, who we announced will be joining us for yet another season of post-game shows live after every Iowa football game. And that is such a treat. So if you missed any of those shows last year, I suggest you go back and watch one or two of them because we try to make this as fan-friendly and as user-friendly as possible. We open the call lines. We try to answer your questions. Oftentimes there are questions of mine that go unanswered because you take up the majority of the show, but that's how it should be. And I know Coach Patterson really enjoys making the fans part of that post-game show. So be with us throughout the season. We're going to be with you from game 1 to game 12, 13, 14, maybe 15. That might be jumping the gun a bit, but we're going to be here all season. Of course, we'll also be here for post-game shows after basketball games. That is still a few months away, so we'll give you more information as we get closer to November. If you want to donate to the channel, I'll go ahead and mention this now. Please do so in the description below. There is a link to give via PayPal. Make more avenues of donations available in the coming weeks. Working on getting some different platforms to accommodate all of you. Do appreciate every donation and every contribution that we get. And when you chat, when you call, you are contributing. So you're not don't feel like you're embarrassing yourself by calling in because no question's a dumb one, especially as we get closer to football. There's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of items to discuss. And so I'm looking forward to it. So again, please share this show out on social media. Help us to get more people on this live stream. We've got just 30 here right now. It's 8:30. We can do a lot better than 30 people, folks. So please share the show. Hit that thumbs up button. That's easy to do. Just hit the thumbs up button. And of course, if you haven't subscribed, do that. But hit the like button. That will help us in the algorithm. All right, so 24 days to kick off, and we were reminded the great Niall Kinnick, number 24, of course, that his number retired and deservedly so, maybe the greatest Hawkeye to ever play Iowa football. And whenever we hit Niall Kinnick Day, as I like to call it, I'm reminded that, man, the summer, as much as it feels like it's a long off season, and it is, it's the longest off season in sports, and I hate it. Once we hit like July, it flies by, at least for me. I know it flies by in August. August is always a busy month. Work-wise, it's busy. You got the state fair. We, of course, got Iowa Media Day. I'll be there at Media Day Friday. And then we got the open scrimmage Saturday. So tons of stuff. We're going to have some coverage for you right here from the Hawkeye this time. It's a busy, busy month. But I'm looking forward to it. And before you know it, we're going to be talking Iowa and the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. The Iowa fall camp is underway, fully underway, about a week underway now, and there are questions. Of course, people like to speculate on the photos that the University of Iowa releases at the end of each practice, which I deeply enjoy. I've never, like, I know some people would probably laugh at someone scouring through those photos. I've always enjoyed doing that because you can pick up on some, little tidbits. For instance, it is not a secret that Keegan Johnson has not been seen in any of the photos here 1 week in. Now, I have not checked the photos from today's practice. I do believe they practiced today. Yes. And so that's a question mark. The status of Keegan Johnson. We know he missed the bowl game against Kentucky due to an abdominal issue. What is his health? I'd say that is the biggest storyline as we continue through fall camp, the health of Keegan Johnson, because, we haven't seen, I don't think we've seen any of John Wagner, who's listed as a starting defensive end for Iowa, at least in the preseason depth chart. We also haven't seen David Davidkov, who's a second teamer on the offensive line. But Johnson's injury is especially important. You think about the lack of depth along that, in the wide receiver room, just in general, not at just one position, but in the room in general. You've got Nico Reganey, who, of course, is a senior. You've got Arlen Bruce, who's shown great potential. But after that, it's few and far between. Iowa loses Charlie Jones, transferring to Purdue. They lose Tyrone Tracy, who also transferred to Purdue. And, of course, we also realized that they lost Jackson Ritter, who you may say, who's that? He was the next guy last year. I mean, after that plethora of players, we saw Jackson Ritter play some consequential snaps. I think back to the Iowa State game in Ames. He was a guy who flashed. And, yes, he's a walk-on, but he's out for the year. So depth at wide receiver is a question mark. Also have not seen Brody Brecht. And, again, I've not looked at the photos for today, but that's two receivers that are MIA in pictures. And hopefully, I'm sure we'll get some update. I would expect some update on those two guys Friday at Media Day. But in the meantime, question marks arise. So if you're keeping track, if you're keeping a tally mark, Iowa now, you could say they're only scholarship players at wide receiver that I'm aware of, unless somebody switched positions, which honestly, I wouldn't be shocked by that if Keegan's injury is long-term. I hope it's not. But I wouldn't be surprised if we find out somebody switched positions late. Typically, you don't want to do those things in fall camp. I get it. But the only scholarship guys that I'm aware of right now that are healthy, presumably, are Arlen Bruce, Nico Reganey, Deontay Vines, and Jacob Bostic. If I'm missing somebody, let me know in the chat. I'm going to get back to the chat here in a moment. Appreciate everybody being involved here early. But that wide receiver room is a concern right now. And does it mean anything for September 3rd? Not necessarily. I don't think Keegan Johnson, certainly he had room to improve. I think this entire wide receiver room had room to improve. It wasn't necessarily some strong room before Keegan Johnson's injury. I know there's a lot of hype around those two sophomores, and both of them flashed last year. But let's be honest, wide receiver has not been a position of strength for a long time at Iowa. It's been better, certainly, once Kelton Copeland took over, got Brandon Smith and Ihmir Smith-Marsette in here. Things became a bit more productive at that position. Not anything like what we saw in 2016. That was a train wreck year, and it's nothing against Riley McCarron, who was the number one guy, but that was not the type of year you wanted. We know Matt Vandenberg went down with an injury. The point is, they are in danger of maybe not returning to the 2016 level. I'd hate to even go that far, but you can only lose so many bodies in an already depleted room. So all those apologists who wanted to act like Charlie Jones' departure meant nothing when he left, and he wasn't going to play, and he'd fallen down on the depth chart. I don't buy any of that nonsense. You can say it all you want. I guess it's he said, she said. Charlie Jones was going to play. He's going to play a lot on offense. We know he's going to be a factor on special teams. Special teams now a question mark. Who's returning punts? Who's returning kicks? Tyrone Tracy, didn't have a great year last year, but in hindsight, boy, you'd love to have Tyrone Tracy right now, right? In hindsight. And of course, Iowa will have to face Tyrone Tracy when they play Purdue in West Lafayette in a couple of months. Hawkeye Howard is here. Appreciate you being here, sir. Hope all is well. Erica, thank you as always for being here. ZJ says, at least football is coming because baseball was over for me in about late May. Baseball was over for me when Iowa bowed out of the Big Ten tournament. I do not get into Major League Baseball. We're literally, and I don't typically, I've never been a huge college baseball guy. I get into Iowa baseball and I enjoy Iowa baseball, but once we leave April, and we're talking May, we're talking a large part of April, but May, June, July, August, there ain't nothing for me as far as sports. The television rarely comes on. I'll just say that we don't watch. We do not watch cable. We don't have cable. We do have we do subscribe to streaming services, and of course, majority of that is for the games in the fall and the games in the fall and the winter. But no, we don't watch TV and for about 4 months, CJ. And so I'm with you. It's a spell, right? It's a spell of just about nothing. And that's good. That's okay. I mean, I'm not the type of guy. I think you got to be balanced. You don't need tons of sports 12 months out of the year. I'm sure some would disagree, and some here probably love baseball. But once we hit September, it's the return of Iowa sports, and of course the NFL season returning as well. Lemansky's here. Thank you, Lemansky. Iowa has had at least one consensus All-American player 6 of the last 8 years, and I'd be shocked if they don't have another one this year, given the hype around Jack Campbell. I think he's the most obvious. Sam Laporta certainly has an opportunity this year to be a consensus All-American. Riley Moss was defensive back of the year last year. So we've got candidates, and you've got some young, talented guys. Connor Colby, a guy who I know scouts are high on. You hope he can take it the next step forward along that offensive line. And they've got talent in the defensive back room minus Riley Moss. Terry Roberts has flashed, especially on special teams. Who will step into that role alongside Riley? Will it be Jamari Harris, who's missing game 1 because of an OWI that he had earlier this year? Or will it be Roberts? Or could it be a Brendan Diaz-Fernandez or a TJ Hall? Those are all questions that we continue to have and we'll continue to ask through fall camp. All right, here's what I'm going to do, folks. 42 people on here. Please continue to share the show out. Please hit the like button if you've not already done so. Hit that little like button right here. It takes 2 seconds. Helps us certainly. And again, the more viewers we have, the more tickets we can give away. I've got a number in my mind of number of tickets. I think we're going to give these away in pairs. So at least 2 pairs, possibly 3 if we get enough people, maybe 4 pairs of tickets this evening. And we're going to be here for the next hour and a half, depending on all of you. Phone line is open, 515-635-1601. Talking anything and everything as it relates to Iowa sports. Football primarily, but we'll be happy to take questions on Iowa basketball recruiting. We know that that's an active storyline right now. Iowa getting Price Sanford to commit, JP Estrella and TJ Power, 2 guys that Iowa, 2 4-star guys that Iowa is high on, and I think Iowa's high on their lists. We know that. We know they're high on each of those guys' lists, and Iowa certainly has a chance at least one of those guys, maybe both. So Iowa basketball recruiting flying high as well. 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. The number there is there at the bottom of the screen. Alex is here. Go Hawks, Alex. Matthew, appreciate you, sir. Kells Bells. Good to see you here, Kells Bells. And let's get to our first caller here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Corey. It's the real MVP. How you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. So my first question is the AP coaches poll came out, and Iowa just missed the mark, being the 26th best team in the poll. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts are simple, and I explained this to Mark yesterday in our weekly show over at his channel. I don't really care, but if you're going to put a gun to my head and say, well, is it better or worse for Iowa? I'd much rather be unranked. I think that's what I said to Mark yesterday. There's a big difference between being number 26 in a poll and being number 25. You're number 25, you've got a target on your back. You're number 26, you don't. And that may be a difference between just a few votes, maybe 1 vote. I don't know how many votes you might be able to tell me, the real MVP, but I'd much rather be where Iowa is. But, there's a good chance if they win week 1 and take care of business if they take care of business in September, they should be 4-0. The schedule is shaped up to be 4-0, and they'll be ranked if they do that. But I prefer to not have that target on their back.
Do you think it's a bit insulting that the Big Ten West champion isn't ranked?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. This is all projection. This is all just conjecture forward. I think the argument could be made that Wisconsin, even though Wisconsin didn't win the West, I mean, they beat down on Iowa, as did Purdue, as did Michigan. I think the argument could be made that just because you win a trophy doesn't necessarily mean you were the better team. I'm not saying the result on the field in Madison would say that Wisconsin was a better team last year, regardless of the trophy well, it's not a trophy, it's a banner, right? Iowa hangs a banner, but no, I don't think about that. Now, maybe the players will use that as motivation. If they do, more power to them.
Yeah, and the final thing I'll ask you about, and in the world of women's basketball, I'm not sure if you saw this, but the UConn star Paige Beckers tore her ACL during a pickup game. It's a devastating injury for her, but how do you think this will impact the women's basketball season?
Well, I think if this happens in men's hoops with a top player, say Oscar Tshiebwe tore his knee, nobody's going to be rejoicing over that. However, you acknowledge the fact that it opens up the door for someone else, potentially, because as we know, Kentucky and UConn, talking Kentucky men and UConn women, are both powerhouses in their respective sports. But it never is a good thing when a girl like Paige Beckers is out for the year, because between her, Caitlin Clark, I mean, I don't know, after those two ladies, who will emerge, who's kind of the face of the sport, and those two are the face of the sport. So it's not a good thing. I wish the best for her. I hope Caitlin Clark can stay healthy, because the product as a whole, women's college basketball, as you know, is much more fragile from a perception standpoint than men's hoops. And I just hope that Caitlin can stay healthy, because you lose those two girls, boy, that's devastating for the sport.
Yeah, I don't know if South Carolina's who was Aaliyah Boston, I think her name was, the big center they had that just dominated paint. I don't know if she's returning back. I don't know. Yeah. But I feel if she is back, the gap between South Carolina and everybody else, I feel like, has certainly moved because of this devastating injury. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Klay Thompson thing, because Klay Thompson tore his ACL, was getting healthy, was playing a pickup game or something like that, and retore his ACL, and just devastating. I mean, Klay Thompson's a great player, but he's not the same as he was before. So I just hope Paige Beckers is able to come back to be the same that she was before.
But you see my point. Player. You see my point, though. Klay Thompson getting injured does not hurt the NBA product like Paige Beckers getting injured.
I absolutely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate part, and I wish her the best, because everything I know about Paige Beckers is she's a class act. So I wish her the best in her recovery.
Oh yeah, and do you think this opens the door for Iowa to have an easier path to the Final Four, because there's usually just 4 or 5 really great teams, and now you've taken one of those teams off the board basically with this injury?
Absolutely. And Iowa, I think, is, I don't know if preseason polls haven't come out, but I think Iowa is going to be, no question, they'll be a top 10 team. I think they'll likely be top 8 in the preseason polls, just given what they have coming back, especially with Monica Sinano coming back, and certainly Caitlin Clark. Iowa did, if you missed this, Iowa did lose a player to a knee injury as well, losing Kylie Feuerbach, the former Iowa State transfer, to a knee injury. Certainly not the loss that Paige Beckers is to UConn. But yeah, it opens up the door. But I tell you, last year, men and women, you kind of, as Kentucky men experienced, you kind of, at least I don't start daydreaming about a run to the Final Four a year after you lost in the second round. And for the Iowa men,
at least you made it to the second round, Corey.
Well, what the Kentucky women do?
We lost the first game to Princeton.
Ooh, boy, that was a rough tournament for Kentucky, because we're talking about the men lost to St. Peter's and the women lost to Princeton.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, at least we got the SEC championship, though. We beat the number 1 team.
You did.
So that's the only thing I'm holding my hat on to.
And you did get some postseason success in the Outback Bowl.
Yeah, that's true. But man, I mean, it was devastating for us in basketball. So.
Was that the Outback Bowl or was that the Gator Bowl? I don't even remember what bowl it was.
No, it was the Citrus Bowl we played.
Citrus Bowl is what it is. Yeah. Okay. All the same to me.
No, Corey. Corey, as a long Kentucky fan, I'll tell you, Citrus Bowl's right below the New Year's Six Bowl. So,
Iowa fans, I think me included, are a bit tired of the trips to Central Florida. So,
Well, you're projected to go to Music City Bowl, so it'll be somewhere different.
Yeah, that's different. Maybe not better, but different.
Yeah, hey, it's different. That's what you asked for.
Yep, true.
So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. What do you think, Corey? 3,000 subs before the season starts?
And I hope so. What are we at right now? I think we got a ways to go to hit 3,000. Let's see. I got to switch over to my channel here. Boy, that's going to be tough, Drill MVP. I mean, it's been a nice steady flow, but yeah, we're still sitting at just short of 2,300. So, going to need some help for that. You're going to need to help us promote.
Well, I hit the like button. That's all about I can do. And I hit the subscribe button. I got that little bell turned on, so I get the notifications like 30 minutes before you go live. And then once you go live.
Yeah. But Drill MVP, couldn't you open like 700 YouTube accounts and just subscribe on every account? That'd help me out.
Well, I could, but that would be a massive time loss for me.
And I think YouTube actually penalizes you for that, so don't do that.
Yeah, they remove those. They remove those subs. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm not encouraging anybody to do that.
Right. So, see you later, Corey.
All right, Drill MVP, appreciate the call. And yeah, that's something that I did see on the Paige Becker's side of things. I don't know how many of our listeners are into Iowa or college women's basketball, but boy, that's about as big of a loss, minus maybe Caitlin Clark going down, that you can have. So never a good thing for the sport. Certainly. I want to get to our super chat. DC Hawkeye. Appreciate this, DC Hawkeye. Appreciate the super chat. Looking forward to the season, and your programming makes it even better. Thank you. And thank you, DC Hawkeye. Appreciate that super chat donation. Always appreciate you being here for our live streams. I do want to let everybody know that we will be, and I don't have a date yet for this. I saw some people commenting in the live chat about Coach Patterson. Again, I said it earlier. I'll say it again. He will be coming back to join the show for Iowa post games this year. We'll actually be doing a preseason show with Coach Patterson. So I don't have a date yet on that, but stay tuned. Not sure if it'll be live or if it'll be pre-recorded, but there will be a preseason show with Coach Patterson himself. So the long-awaited return of Coach P is imminent. Chad Conaway, any news on Logan Jones? Last I knew, he was practicing. He's out there at least. That's the only thing that really we can piece together at this point. Again, we should know more on Friday, but he is out there, and I expect him to take starting snaps throughout much of the fall, and barring some injury, I expect him to be the starter at center once we hit September 3rd. Michael Myslinski, I believe, is also healthy. That's good news. He's dealt with some injuries in his young career, but he has been pictured and is involved in fall camp. And after Myslinski, I'd have to look at the roster. I mean, you've got Matt Fagan, who I think took some snaps in practice last year, was listed as the backup to Tyler Linderbaum at some point. Actually throughout much of the season. But never actually saw snaps. I believe Kyler Schott came into the bowl game and played center briefly. So, would it be Fagan after? Hopefully, you don't have to go down that road. Hopefully, either Logan Jones or Michael Myslinski fill into that role. Certainly, it's big shoes. They're big shoes to fill when you're replacing a guy like Tyler Linderbaum. But everything that I've heard, Logan Jones is doing well and progressing, and I'm not worried about that position. I'm more concerned about tackle and guard. I mean, honestly, both guard. I mean, guard play, Connor Colby was good last year, but he's young. I didn't think he was great. I know he's projected to be really good. He's projected to be, by a lot of people, to be an NFL product in the coming years. But I'm still concerned outside of center. Iowa seems to typically do well replacing and kind of filtering guys out at center. And certainly they develop guys at other places, but collectively they're not always. You never know where those holes are going to be, but usually there have been holes. If there weren't holes, Iowa would run the ball a lot better than they do, and they just don't. So somebody's got to step up at left tackle. Is it going to be Mason Richmond? Could it be a David Cobb? We don't know about David Cobb's health right now. And, is Nick DeYoung, is he going to stay at right tackle? Jack Plum needs to step up. Could DeYoung end up moving in to left guard? It looked like in one or two of the photos, it looked like maybe DeYoung was taking some snaps at guard. That's a storyline to follow as well, because certainly DeYoung played a lot last year. Didn't play great, but did play a lot. James, appreciate this, James. Appreciate your support and for being here this evening. Hair Trigger 83, same to you. Gary Lewis, hearing Coach Don Patterson reminds me of my 20-plus years spent in North Texas. ZJ Wags, didn't you know if you had seen the story on Ava Jones and her mom from this last week? I did see that. I'm happy to see Ava and her mom progressing. Just bittersweet, the whole situation, to lose her father, just in such a tragic nature. I feel so for her. I just, it's such a terrible situation. But the fact of the matter is, both are Ava and her mom are both progressing and recovering, which is wonderful to hear. Because honestly, I think their future was very much in question, in critical condition, and reportedly on ventilators, and just, I mean, scary situation. And you just wish the best for them, because boy, that family is dealing with unspeakable grief, and just such I can't imagine. So first of all, losing a parent is one thing, but think about this for a second: losing a parent and also losing your health instantly, like that. Losing a parent and losing your health in a split second, and that's what it was. And Ava has she's a trooper, and it sounds like her plan is to still be here in 2023. If that happens, wow, determination and endurance from her, and you just hope that continues, the recovery continues smoothly, because boy, what a scary situation. And certainly the whole premise of how it happened, and I believe, I haven't been following the criminal side of it, but I know the individual who struck Ava Jones and her family was charged with murder. That's a whole separate issue. The health of Ava and her mom are of my biggest concern. But just a tragic situation, shows how fragile life can be, and enjoy every moment we have. Let's get to our next caller here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Zach from Cedar Rapids.
Hey, Zach. How are you?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. Good to hear you.
Yep. Thanks for the answer on that question that I just posted. I've actually met Lisa Bluter once. Could not have a class year coach. I'm glad she's honoring her scholarship, whether she can play or not. Being a national anthem singer at the U of I got to meet Lisa the first time I sang. Unbelievable class, her and her whole staff.
Yeah.
And I hope if Ava can play in 2023, her first game, they give her a standing ovation. She deserves it.
They will. And I'm with you. I don't mean to trivialize the injury, but a scholarship in college basketball is pretty valuable. I mean, there's only 13 to go around, right? And so, boy, that's it was the right thing to do, and you expect nothing less from another class act, and Lisa Bluter. I'm with you.
Oh yeah. On the men's basketball front, with the Price Sanford signing, with the other two guys that JP and TJ, if Iowa can get maybe one of those two, what's the future looking like for Franks? It sounds like he's been really making some strides in recruiting these past couple of years. I
agree. The future is first of all a lot of shooters, right? I mean, just look at we're talking down the road. So let's project forward even to 2024. Not even talking about 23, but 24. You've got Cooper Koch coming in, who, he's a, will he end up being a 3 or a 4? I think he's probably going to end up being a 4 if he packs on some weight, maybe gains another inch. I see him more as a 4, but he's a good shooter. You've got Josh Dix, who's recovering from the injury this year, coming in, but he's a shooter. Price Sanford's a shooter. Peyton Sanford's a shooter. I don't expect Chris Murray to be around past this season, but DeSante Bowen is probably a slightly better than average shooter as far as it relates to being a point guard. And then you get a guy like Power, or a guy like Estrella. It does, and we're missing Brock Harding, who's kind of a sensational kid. I'll say this: I'm a bit concerned if this is okay for me to say, I'm a bit concerned with defense because
Yes.
if you look at the recruiting class for 23 and you look at the recruiting class for 24, again, we just got Koch in 24 and you got the 3 guys in 23, and then you look at what they have coming in this year. I think DeSante Bowen has got, I would expect him, he's a good athlete in high school, but none of those other guys, and that's 5 other players. I'm talking Josh Jicks, Price Sanford, Brock Harding, Owen Freeman, Cooper Koch, plus maybe Estrella or Power. Which one of those guys would you say, from what you know, Zach, would you say their strength is athleticism? If you've watched any of those guys on tape, see, to me, those guys, none of those guys scream defense to me when I watch them on tape. Now, doesn't mean they can't develop into good defenders, but you and I both know that has not necessarily been a strong suit of Fran McCaffrey's in this program, developing guys into good defensive players. They take advantage of guys like Tony Perkins, Keegan Murray, Chris Murray, who are natural athletes who can guard, move laterally. But it does worry me a little bit when you have guys that are probably average to maybe even slightly below average athleticism. I'm not saying they're not good athletes, but in comparison to Big Ten level, I mean, we're talking having to guard Big Ten wings, Big Ten guards. That's a bit concerning to me. I just wonder from a roster makeup standpoint, who's going to be able to defend with a bunch of guys who are maybe average athletes. Yeah, and maybe I'm selling them short, but that's what I see on tape.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, because I think it's really been a while. The Fran's defense kind of stepped up a little last year, except for maybe the tournament game. But and some of that was Joe Toussaint just being a pest, and he's going to be a huge loss defensive-wise.
Absolutely.
But I could definitely see Iowa maybe playing a lot more zone after this next year, unless they can get, you know, some athletes, or
well,
I don't know if they can have even a big just plug up the lane.
Yeah, that's a concern though, Zach. The zone has not been good. I mean, the zone has not been good. So unless they can teach that zone better, like Wisconsin plays, I mean, we're talking in 2 years, Tony Perkins being gone. You're looking at you mentioned Joe Toussaint is gone now.
Ulis will be gone in 2 years. Chris Murray will be gone in 2 years. Patrick McCaffrey, who I consider one of their better athletes despite his lack of bulk, I would consider him to be a better athlete. Connor McCaffrey is a good defender for his average athleticism. I just, to me, that's a concern when the only guy that you look at and say, wow, he's a good athlete, would probably be DeSante Bowen. And I hope one of those guys proves me wrong. But to me, they need an athletic wing. And, maybe, guys leave and the transfer portal is going to be a factor, because it's going to be a factor every year moving forward. But that would be my only concern. But I'm with you. They're going to have a top 15 class. I think if they were to land Estrella and Power, absolutely, it's probably a top 15 class. But I still question the defense. What could you potentially see? I did see your interview with Riley Mulvey. Yeah. What do you think if Mulvey kind of took Agundale's potential transfer out as motivation, and even some of last year's motivation, what do you think him and Agundale can actually provide to back up Roberto, who's technically not a 5, but is forced to be playing a 5?
I think ideally Fran would love to be able to play one of those 2 big men at the 5. I don't anticipate that happening. I've heard that Riley Mulvey has looked better during summer workouts, but I've not heard anything earth-shattering about either guy. So I would anticipate Fran playing Phillip at the 5, but I do think Phillip would be well served to get some time at the 4, just given his size and skill set. I think he's a better shooter than what he showed last year. Josh is going to provide physicality. He proved to be a good defender. I think he's got good touch around the rim. His stamina has obviously been the biggest issue. Riley was a good defender in high school, but he talked on my show. You heard that, Zach, that he struggled once he got here as it relates to post defense. And so he kind of had to relearn how to defend the post at the Big Ten level, which is a natural thing when you're guarding the likes of Zach Edey and Trevion Williams.
Yeah.
But No, I think both of those guys could have a role. They need one of those guys to step up at a minimum. If you could get both guys to even give you 10 minutes apiece, that's 20 minutes at the 5. And that gives Phillip maybe, does Phillip play 20 minutes at the 5, 10 minutes at the 4? I think you can mix and match a bit. And we know Fran's willing to go small, but I think at times you can't have two guys who are 7-footers sitting on the bench all season. That's just not scholarship guys. And I mean, they got to have one of them step up.
No, and especially if Fran wants to run, like he did some of last year. You gotta have something at least to plug up something.
Right.
Just because, and I commend Gundele. I mean, Edie basically bounced off of him in the Big Ten tournament a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
he tried to bump into him, and Ogundele said no.
And so that's going to be the key for Ogundele, and I don't know. Fran McCaffrey was talking to John Rothstein the other day on his show, and it sounds like, I think it was the Rothstein interview, but he basically said that Josh had lost some weight. Someone said that. Maybe I'm misquoting that or misattributing that, but it sounds like he's maybe lost some weight, which of course he had lost some weight. It looked like maybe he'd gained some of it back. I'm just going from what I'm seeing on the television screen and in person. He's going to lose some of that girth, which is a good thing. He's got to turn some of that weight into strength and conditioning weight, if you will. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, his ability to keep guys from backing him down when you're however big he is, that's going to be a natural skill. But he does have some, like I said, I think he's got good touch around the rim. You look at his high school tape, Josh Ogundele actually could come out and shoot the mid-range jumper. And he's got a decent little jump shot. I mean, he compared himself. Who did he compare himself to? I compared him to Zach Randolph a bit, which now people are going to laugh at that because we haven't seen anything close to that type of production. But he does kind of have that mid-range game, and you just hope he can. His big thing is health, I think, at this point.
I think I saw a video of him a year ago in the summer shooting from the free throw line extended. Yeah. And I was going, where was this during the season?
Right. No, I think he's
being kicked on the bench almost every game.
I'd venture to say that
probably helpful.
I'd venture to say that he's probably more of a natural shooter than Riley Mulvey. Mulvey's probably going to be more of your rim protector.
Yep.
And that's just maybe what they need him for. You're going to lose some shot blocking production from Keegan Murray. I know Coach Gary Close on this very channel during our post-game shows last year kind of talked about shot blocking being a bit overrated, but at the same time, you need a guy who can protect the rim. And I think Mulvey, that can be his niche. It sounds like he's working hard. Somebody's got to step up. And I guarantee you here, Zach, if neither one of those guys steps up this year, you're going to lose one or both of them next year because you got Owen Freeman coming in next year. They're recruiting JP Estrella, who's 6'11". So, I mean, those guys have to step up. It's now or never, especially for Josh.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, I kind of agree. If he has the mid-range jumper, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Zach Randolph.
Yeah. He's got the body.
It's perfect comparison, even though I know you said people might laugh. It's kind of the body type and the lefty shot.
Right.
But anyway, thanks for the chat. Everybody subscribe. Enjoy listening to you. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate the call. And all good points. I'm glad we got a basketball conversation. I love it. The phone line is open. Saw someone trying to call just a moment ago. Here's how we're going to do. I'm just going to say this. So we're already half an hour in. So I don't want to keep everybody who is here waiting on hold for too long. If you're waiting for our ticket giveaway, I promise we're going to be giving away tickets when I give the cue, and we do have a caller waiting. So don't call right now. All right. Don't call right now. But when I give the cue, call in and be caller number 7 to win tickets. Very simple, right? Radio format. Be caller number 7 when I give you the cue to call in. The number is 515-635-1601 for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Iowa State Fair. So nothing better than the Iowa State Fair in mid-August in the summer heat. So let's get to our next caller, and then we'll give away a pair of tickets. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is Chad Conaway.
Hey, Chad. How are you?
Good, sir. Love your show. Make sure everybody you subscribe. It's a great show to follow for Hawkeye information.
Appreciate it, Chad.
Absolutely. Just wanted to get your thoughts on, the offense has been ranked, low for several years, but this offseason, it seems like, Brian Ferentz has seeked out some different advice, and we've had the new quarterbacks or mystery coach, whatever you want to call him, that was not paid. Now he's paid. They've talked about simplifying the offense, and just wanted to get your overall thoughts. It just seems like maybe they're starting to understand they need to do better. They've known that, but I think they're trying to do different things. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I have no doubt they're going to be trying to do different things once we hit September 3rd. I don't know that the different things they're going to do are the different things they should do, if that makes sense. I don't know that John Budmeyer coming in here, and I have a lot of respect for John. I don't know him personally, but what I know about him, and we had discussion with a family member, Chuck Hartley, who's high on John. What I know about John is that he's a very, very well-informed former quarterback who's going to be able to help Brian with some of the fundamentals that he's not privy to because he's not a former quarterback. He's never coached a position. So that's a positive, having that guy on staff. But we got to remember, he can't work with the players directly. He can't teach, provide on-field instruction, etc. I don't know the details of what he can do during games. Can he be on the field in Brian's ear? Maybe. So I do think, I agree with you. Bringing him in is a positive, and it gives a degree of hope to people who have lost all hope with Brian Ferentz. But here's how I've described it in the past, and I've talked to Mark Rogers about this very topic. When Kirk appointed or promoted Brian to quarterbacks coach, and it was a promotion. I don't care if the salary didn't really reflect it as much. It was a promotion. When you get promoted from tight ends coach to quarterbacks coach, that's a promotion. When he was promoted, to me, that was Kirk's way of doubling down. And to me, there was no way Kirk couldn't have went all in. Like, if you go into this year and do the same thing you did last year, the same year you promote your son to quarterbacks coach, you double down. I mean, I don't know about fan revolt. That might be a bit hyperbolic, but there's just no way Brian Ferentz is going to last. I mean, even though he's Kirk's son, I don't believe Kirk is ever going to fire Brian. I think he recognizes that they have to do something different because his clock is ticking. And I mean, there were reports, you may have heard them circulating throughout the offseason this year, that Brian was looking for a way out, trying to go back to the NFL. And he's just not a very hireable person right now, partly because of the lawsuit that he's involved with. And so I do believe they're going to try different things, but I'll believe it when I see it as it relates to production. I do think they're going to take more shots down the field. I foresee more trick plays. You hope LeVar Woods, who's been instrumental in trick plays on special teams, can help with that. But you got to be more. You got to be efficient. You can't just run a bunch of trick plays and expect that to fix your problems. You've got so many. When you're 123rd in total offense, and I've said this a million times, you're 123rd in total offense. You got a lot of problems, and so it starts up front. It starts with quarterback play, and unless those two things improve, I don't know how much play calling it's going to help. I mean, you can call better plays. It's going to help. But play calling and clock management and all these other problems with this wide receiver separation, even if you were to fix all those things, if you don't fix the two focal points, and that's quarterback play and offensive line play, I'm still going to be skeptical until I see it on the field.
Yeah, and I think, Kirk has to, at this point, he's got to just let Brian do whatever he wants to do, because Brian's got to just go big at this point just to improve, even if he does want to go somewhere else. You can only go up from 123rd. I mean, that's the good news. But I was encouraged with some of the things you've seen. He did say that he likes his offense to look the same, but they do different things, so the defense doesn't know what's coming if it's a run or pass. I agree with all that, but you definitely hit it on the head. It's got to be the offensive line, the quarterback play, and get those young receivers keep developing, and hopefully it pans out.
Yeah, and I'll just say this too to add to that. I obviously Iowa's predicated on an effective run game. And I know fans maybe get tired of hearing that because they want to see Iowa open it up and throw the ball downfield, which I think they will do more this year because they have to, even though they potentially could be depleted at wide receiver. But there's such a huge difference. You saw it last year with Tyler Goodson and that just porous offensive line. Iowa consistently losing yardage or basically getting nothing on first or second down. So you're automatically behind the chains, and then you put yourself in an automatic passing situation. I think that's what Brian's referring to, is when you can get ahead in the chains early. Yeah, now you have the whole playbook open. You're 2nd and 5, 2nd and 6, and now you can line up, and the defense doesn't know whether you're running. Are you running a run play? Are you running a pass play? Play action opens up, which is I think Iowa's only hope for an effective passing game this year. They've got to use play action better than they did last year. But again, that's predicated on being able to run the football better on first down. I will say this. So this is something encouraging. I've heard good things about Caleb Johnson so far out of fall camp. Mostly just rumblings, nothing from I have had 1 or 2 people who I consider to be really good sources tell me that Caleb Johnson looks really good. So that's a positive, because if Caleb Johnson, how he's built, he's a downhill guy. You've got Gavin Williams and LaShawn Williams who are downfield runners. I think that will help to stay ahead of the chains. And if you can stay ahead of the chains, it will help the passing game.
I agree. I think those runners fit the offensive style a lot better for Iowa.
They do.
No disrespect to Tyler Goodson, but I think these guys are going to get you yardage instead of, the negative plays too. So
I agree.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, sir. Have a great night. Good call so far, folks. All right. The time is now caller number 7, 515-635-1601. It's been kind of I expected more people on. This is I appreciate all the people who are here, over 60 people, but I expected a ticket giveaway for things to be a bit more active. So again, caller number 7. And if I have to wait here for 10 minutes for 7 calls, I'll do that. If the same person calls back 7 times, I guess that means you win the tickets. But again, caller number 7, 515-635-1601, and we'll continue to talk Hawkeye football as we await the 7th caller. And if you've already called, you can call back again. But again, win 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair. They'll be mailed to you tonight. Well, tomorrow morning. Mail will go out tomorrow morning, but they'll be mailed to you. Enjoy a fun day at the fair. So again, 515-635-1601 to win tickets to the Iowa State Fair. And we've got our first caller, caller number 1. We'll go to Erica's super chat as we await our next 6 callers. Erica says, don't forget to gently press that like button, folks. Go Hawks. Absolutely. Gently hit that like button. Don't break your computer while you're trying to hit the like button. Do appreciate your zeal. And thank you for the super chat, Erica. I know I fell behind in the chat. I apologize for that. Lots of great questions, and I'm going to get to them. I should throw the number up at the bottom of the screen again. We're awaiting our 7th caller to win 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair. ZJ, I want to address your second question. If Iowa can have a top 60 offense, do they have a legit shot at the Big Ten West? If they have a top 60 offense, ZJ, I would venture to say that they are the favorites for the Big Ten West. I think the defense has a chance of being that good. I think the defensive line is going to be a lot better than people expect. And yeah, I foresee a scenario. I could foresee a scenario where, that's a huge jump. Let's recognize that's a massive jump from being 123rd in the country to being top 60. That's a massive jump. But I do think, yes, if Iowa can have a top 60 offense, they have a legit shot at the Big Ten West. I'd venture to say they would be the favorites for the Big Ten West. Caller number 2 here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We're slowly eking our way to 7 callers for our first pair of tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Cooper brings up Deontay Vines, and Hawkeye Media guy has Vines over 0.5 catches this year. In all seriousness, you never know. Someone always seems to step up, never know. I'm assuming you're talking 0.5 per game. I don't know who the media guy, caller number 3, by the way, caller number 3. Yeah, Cooper, it seems like the University of Iowa is not shy in featuring Deontay Vines in its photo galleries. It seems like they're pretty ambitious with making sure he's featured. Now, whether that means that may just be reverse psychology to get people to get on the Deontay Vines train, but it does look like he's involved. He's going against at least the twos. I've seen him there was a catch that kind of went viral, making a catch over TJ Hall, who I anticipate playing this year, potentially on defense, certainly on special teams. So yeah, Deontay Vines needs to step up. He's the guy. It's like, hey, you've been here. This is, I think, year 3 for Vines. He's a redshirt sophomore. I mean, it's now or never, right? Not that he couldn't. I mean, he's not going to be graduating this year, but my point is, you ain't going to get a better opportunity than now with a wide receiver room that's thin. Heard good things about Jacob Bostic. I know Scott Docterman brought him up. He's a freshman from Illinois. Could he step up into a role this year? Freshmen can sometimes play as a wide receiver. I mean, it's not a position that's as hard to learn as certainly a position along the line or a position like tight end. I could see a scenario where Bostic gets some offensive snaps. We are at 3 callers in. We got a few more to get to caller number 7. Caller number 7 wins our tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Kels Bells, is the lack of wide receiver depth maybe not as big of a concern with our tight end talent? Fair point to make. You got to think your lucky stars, Kelly, that Iowa does have the tight end talent, specifically Laporta and Lachey. You hope that Steven Stylianos can step up. I think that's going to be a storyline to watch. Can he develop transfer from Lafayette, the only transfer they brought in this year? Can he develop into a guy who can come in and play? Because you may see some 3 tight end sets. We haven't seen a lot of those in a while, but Iowa hasn't been, well, they were deep at tight end, obviously with the Fant Hawkinson year. I think Nate Weeding was 3rd in line there, and they ran some 3 tight end stuff, but they still got to get that wide receiver room better. You don't want Sam Laporta to be your leading receiver at the end of the year. I think it's likely that happens, but certainly the tight end talent helps. It does help. Hair Trigger 83, offensive line depth and health is still the most important in my opinion. I would agree to some extent that it's important. I still think that they're deeper from a personnel standpoint at offensive line than they are at wide receiver. Now, some unproven guys, but they've got guys who have played games, and DeYoung and Plum and Richmond and am I missing somebody on the interior? Justin Britt's out for the season. Connor Colby is back. And then, like I say, they've recruited well at that position. So David Cobb and Ellsbury and Jennings Dunker, I think they've got personnel there. I just don't know who the personnel are going to be at wide receiver, and that's my concern. Bora Rem, I predict a tight end pass-heavy offense this season. Tight end pass-heavy. Yeah, not pass-heavy in general, but tight end pass-heavy. 84 will have, Sam Laporta will have at least 60-plus catches. Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me in the least. Dudley Booger Dawson. Go Hawks. Appreciate you being here, sir. I cannot believe we're not getting more calls for free tickets to the State Fair. We're 3 calls in. Somebody call. I want to give away these tickets. You got to be the 7th caller. We've had 3 calls that I've answered and hung up because we're in the middle of what's supposed to be I thought a pretty slam dunk promotion call so that we can get back to taking calls. All right. We got our next caller here. Caller number 4. Caller number 4. And we've got caller number 5. Caller number 5. We've got 2 more calls to hit our 7th caller to win 2 free tickets to the Iowa State Fair, which begins tomorrow, by the way. Check out the Iowa tent inside the Varied Industries building. You may see myself walking around the fair doing some live streaming coverage for storycounty.news, which is our sister, if you want to call it our sister website. And we've got caller number 6. Caller number 6 here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. And I believe we have our first winner. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Your caller 7. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. You're caller number 7.
Oh, awesome.
What's your name?
This is Justin Boyd.
Justin. Well, congratulations, Justin. You have won 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair. The number you called, I will give you a call right after the show, or you can text me. Up to you.
Yeah, I can text you. That's fine.
All right, Justin. Appreciate it. Congratulations.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Congratulations to Justin, the first winner in our contest here to win. Justin just won 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Going to give more away now that phone line's lighting up. So figures. I guess people were just hesitant to call. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Corey, it's Cooper.
Hey, Cooper.
How are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Oh, doing pretty well.
Are you still there?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
How's it going tonight? What you got going on?
Oh, I went golfing today, and then I was just driving back, and I was listening to your show, and I think it's pretty awesome that you're giving away tickets. I hope you can still hear me. I don't know if I'm going through some bad service areas, but
I can hear you just fine, and let me just update my page here. Yeah, I can hear you just fine, and we just gave a pair of tickets away to Justin, and so we'll be giving away another pair here in a few minutes.
sweet, man. That's awesome.
So appreciate you calling in.
Right.
Is this Cooper D?
Yeah, I switched it was Cooper Dorfeld before, and then I switched my YouTube thing around. So I've talked to you before, but
Yeah. No, I remember you. I just wanted to make sure.
Yep. Are you willing to talk a little Iowa football, or?
Absolutely. Let's talk Iowa football.
I think that I know you had talked about it a little bit before, but I think the running backs, everybody seems to think that Iowa football is always so run heavy and that we always run the ball so well. And I think that's kind of a little bit of a myth.
Oh, of course it
lately.
is.
But I think with the running back core that we have now, like I believe it was the last caller talked about, it fits us a little bit more, and I think that we may be able to run the ball a little bit better now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Iowa right now is, first of all, they've recruited well at that position. I think they've recruited guys who fit the system. But at the same time, I don't feel like they've recruited guys who are one-dimensional. I feel like Jazian Patterson's a guy who can likely be a little bit more versatile than maybe a Goodson or a Wadley. And I even think Caleb Johnson has shown, at least on tape, and it's a totally different animal once you get to the Big Ten, but he's shown on tape the ability to make guys miss. He obviously looks the part at 6'2", 6'1", somewhere in there, about 220. Yeah, no, I like what they've got, and you hope that LaShawn Williams and Gavin Williams progress as well. But I think the freshmen have an opportunity. I think both freshmen have an opportunity because that's not a real deep room either, but the personnel there I feel good about.
I do too, and I also, with the new guy coming in from Florida, I think we're recruiting at the position very well.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very bright room.
Absolutely.
Forward.
Yeah. And keep in mind, too, that resurgence in recruiting, or at least what I view to be a resurgence in recruiting, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Liddell Betts for that. And, you know, he's still got a lot to prove as a coach on the field because that run game has not been great. But as it relates to recruiting, you got to give him an A because I think they're recruiting at that position better than they have in years.
I agree. And this is just overall recruiting for Iowa sports. I mean, I feel like I know Spencer Petras was a 4-star and or 3-star, whatever site you want to look at. We've had some 4-stars, but it feels like both Iowa basketball and football, a lot more 4-stars coming in. And I don't know what that is. Definitely not NIL. I know we have the new Swarm Collective or whatnot, but I just think there must be like some culture thing going on where recruiting on both sides of football and basketball have been greatly improved, which is very exciting.
I agree. And I think it's a bit surprising, especially from an outside perspective. You look at the changing landscape in college athletics and the importance being placed on the transfer portal and specifically NIL. The fact that Iowa's had a boost in recruiting despite those variables has been impressive. Now, can they sustain that long term? That's a question mark. The 24 class has a lot of work to do in that class. They've got some good in-state guys, but you got to be happy right now. Say what you want about Iowa and the offense. You got to be happy with how they're recruiting offensive line. You got to be happy with how they're recruiting running back. And I think they've done a good job at tight end. They were a little behind in 23, but they got the kid from St. Louis, Zach Ortworth, and I like the guys they have coming in this year. I think the biggest position that's concerning, not only for this year, but for recruiting moving forward, continues to be wide receiver, and that's been the case for years.
Yeah, I also agree with that. I it's kind of tough, you know. I mean, Brody Breck, I don't know I obviously don't have his recruiting thing in front of me, but I know it's get one bigger kid recruit, and he's also a star baseball player. So you never know how that's going to go.
Yeah, true. And it sounds like he's been dealing with a hamstring issue, and that's the risk you run when you're a two-sport athlete.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it's going to take, obviously the offense is going to have to improve. Like you've said before, I remember people had said, oh, if you're a top quarterback, why would you want to go to Iowa? And I think there's kind of a similar thing with receiver, but I don't think that's true, because why would you want to go to Iowa? There's one of the best defenses in the country, great special teams. So you're in a position to succeed. But that kind of comes hand in hand. If you don't have, well or good enough quarterback play, I don't know why a receiver would want to come. But I think it just takes one or two. Maybe Marco Lainez will be that guy and, bring the next generation of receivers that want to come here.
Well, and let's not discredit Jacob Bostic and Alex Mota. I think Alex Mota has some athleticism that room could certainly use, and it sounds like Bostic has some intangibles that they need. So those two guys, those are good gifts. I mean, Mota being an in-state kid and Bostic from a state over, but they just need to fill that room a bit better. They're going to have to use the portal. They're going to have to use the portal. I think in hindsight, they probably would have liked to have used the portal a bit more during this offseason, although they did get Caden Wetjen from the JUCO ranks, and he's going to have an opportunity potentially to play. Yeah, we'll just wait and see.
Yeah, well, hopefully this year goes well, and I always enjoy listening to your show, and I thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, man. Call back again. Take care.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate the call from Cooper. All right. Coming up, your chance to win two more. We've already had one winner earlier. Justin won a pair of tickets. And now we're going to give away two more tickets to the Iowa State Fair. So in just a moment, not yet, but in just a moment, we'll be back and giving away more tickets to the Iowa State Fair and talking Iowa football right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Hawkeye fans, let's talk about health and performance optimization for a moment. Our sponsor, Ascent Nutrition, offers amazing products. It's actually owned by former Iowa graduate Lance Shuttler. Now, I've decided to partner with Ascent Nutrition because of their unique approach to human health. Ascent offers an organically grown, mold and mycotoxin-free coffee. It provides a pure, clean, and rich flavor without those pesticides that most coffees are treated with. They also offer an algae oil DHA, which is used to support brain health, memory, and focus, as well as proper nervous system development in adults, children, athletes, and even pets. Now, lastly, their unique crafted wild pine pollen is used to support cardiovascular health, hormonal function, and a healthy libido. Your purchase not only supports this channel, but the business of a former Hawkeye. Visit goascentnutrition.com or click the link in the description below and use the code Hawkeyes. That's the code Hawkeyes to receive 10% off your total order from Ascent Nutrition. So appreciate Ascent Nutrition for sponsoring the show. And by the way, before we get to our next item at hand here, for all you guys, I know most everybody here is probably, I shouldn't say that. Kelly, I know, is on here, and Erica is on here. So I don't want to forget the ladies who have joined this show, and certainly appreciate your support. But I know, I don't think it's a mystery to anybody that most of our listeners are probably of male sex, right? Male gender. That's probably accurate in most cases. Sometimes guys don't like to talk about nutrition, or maybe don't feel the need to look into stuff like nutrition products and supplements and whatnot. Ascent Nutrition is so much different. We talked about, you saw in the ad there, organic and mold and mycotoxin free coffee. I mean, almost all of us drink coffee at some point. Not all of us, but most of us. I'll tell you, that coffee, folks, is really, really good. And to know it's not treated with those pesticides that most coffee plants are treated with, is that in and of itself is a selling point. But they've got great products. So again, if you haven't already done so, use the code Hawkeyes, goascentnutrition.com. Use the code Hawkeyes and goascentnutrition.com, because they're doing great work. and owned by a former Hawkeye, former Iowa graduate from right here in the state of Iowa. All right. I'm going to put the number back up here, folks. Caller number 7. Caller number 7, 515-635 515-635-1601. Your chance to win 2 more tickets. You cannot win twice, so Justin, he can't call back and win 2 more. Sorry, Justin. But again, your chance to win a pair of tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Be caller number 7 at 515-635-1601. Caller number 1 here as we plug along here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Caller number 2 for our 2 tickets. I feel like an auctioneer today. I'm not used to doing this. It's been a while since I've done a radio giveaway. That was back in the day. Caller number 3 here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Again, looking for caller 7 at 515-635-1601. And as soon as we're done with this giveaway, we're going to continue to talk Iowa football. Leave your comments in the chat. Certainly call once we're done with our giveaway. Caller number 4, I believe, right? Caller number 4, I believe. I don't believe I skipped anybody. Caller number 4, looking for caller number 5. We're actually looking for caller number 7 for our advanced admission tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Which will be mailed out to you tomorrow if you are the winner. We've already had 1 winner for a pair of tickets this evening. Looking for at least 1 more winner, and if enough people hang out here, we may give away a 3rd pair of tickets. May just give away a 3rd pair of tickets. Caller number 5 for our tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Again, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. By the way, just want to let everybody know, if you want to sponsor the show, it's at the bottom link. We're looking for sponsors for our post-game shows, which, of course, will happen starting September 3rd, first Iowa football game of the year. Caller number 6. But also for just our regular programming, Hawkeye Hangout, Brad has branded thoughts throughout the week. I mean, we're producing content all the time, folks. So if you want to sponsor the show, reach out to me from the eye of the storm at outlook.com. That's from the eye of the storm at outlook.com. Hi, who's this?
This is Chad.
Chad, congratulations. You're caller 7.
Awesome.
And is this a good number to reach you after the show?
It is. Thank you very much.
All right, Chad. Appreciate it. Congratulations. So Chad is our winner of 2 more tickets to the Iowa State Fair, which begins tomorrow, 11th through the 21st. I always love the State Fair. I don't know about you folks, but always have loved the State Fair. And I'm sometimes a minority with younger people, but it's become a tradition over the years, and always love the State Fair. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We already have a winner. Do you want to talk Hawkeye football?
Yes, want to talk Hawkeye football.
All right, what you got?
First, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great.
And second, we've been talking a lot like the last week or 2 of obviously like the wide receiver room, whatnot. But I have a feeling, I feel like Lachey, obviously Laporta is tied in 1, but I feel like we'll see a pretty big leap from Lachey. He had some big catches. That one big catch against Iowa State, I remember last year, and then one against Penn State and whatnot. So I'm hoping we see a big jump from him. Didn't know your opinion on that, or if you even think that they'll be running him a lot or using him more in blocking schemes, things like that. But I hope we see a jump and in the tight end play from him, maybe relieve stress from the wide receivers. Kind of your opinion on that?
Well, I'll say this, and I believe it was Kelly in our chat mentioned it here a few minutes ago, but I do believe that Lachey's role only increases in the passing game with the continued struggles with depth and potentially injuries at wide receiver. Lachey is going to have his opportunity. And now I have seen Iowa media people try to make comparisons between the Fant Hawkinson year to the Laporta Lachey 2022 year. I don't know how we could possibly go that far when we've not seen Lachey produce anything close to the numbers that either one of those guys did in 2017. Now, TJ Hawkinson, as you know, was an unknown commodity heading into 2017, and he just kind of came out of nowhere. So I think it's very possible that Lachey does that. Certainly the development at Iowa has been impressive. The history of the development, even under Brian. And now we know what's his face is taking over tight ends. Now his name escapes me. Man, I can't. Abdul Hodge.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe I forgot Abdul Hodge.
Yeah, Abdul Hodges.
But though I have faith in the coaching staff to develop guys like Lachey, and that's why I brought up Stylianos, because if you have three guys, then you can. I mean, not to say that you're not going to still play. You're going to have sets with four receivers out in the field, but if you can go back to the traditional three tight end set, if you have three guys that you really like, who can all block, who can all catch. Yeah, I mean, Lachey and Laporta have proven to be good blockers. I think Lachey has a chance to be maybe a better blocking tight end than Sam Laporta. Now, Don Patterson would be a better resource on tight ends because he coached tight ends for so long. But yeah, I think both those guys have a chance, and the chance is only heightened because of the struggles of wide receiver.
Yeah, I had the same thought. I hope we see a jump there and whatnot. And then Stylianos, if that's how you say it. Yeah. I mean, do you think they're even going to try and implement him? Is he a senior? What is he again?
He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining. Kirk had implied during the offseason, I think it was maybe right before, well, was it it might have been Big Ten Media Days. He was asked about Stylianos and implied that there was a bit of a learning curve coming from the Patriot League to the Big Ten, which you expect. But they didn't come here. I don't think he came here to sit in the bench. Now, he does have a year next year. So, of course, then you project forward, you'd look at Lachey and Stylianos being the top two. But I think Stylianos will play, and it just takes one injury. If Lachey or Laporta go down, Stylianos is the guy, because I don't see, barring some ridiculous progression from guys like Addison Estringa or Cale Vanderbush, those guys are true freshmen. Neither of them enrolled early. I think your clear top three at tight end are those three guys I just mentioned, Laporta, Lachey, and Stylianos. Have you heard good things about a couple of walk-ons at tight end? You never know there. But I think all three of those guys will play a lot.
Yeah, the only reason I had that thought is just because I listen to your show all the time. And then once you started saying that Keegan Johnson wasn't in whatever fall camp pictures, which who knows if he is injured or not. But so it's kind of making me more skeptical, but hopefully that is the case. And he does play, but then it made me think more of Lachey being implemented more than just blocking, things like that. So hopefully we see a jump there. But my other question for you was, I think last year Petrus's best game was against Iowa State, maybe give or take another game. But I mean, he had a couple big throws in Iowa State, and then, like, for example, against Wisconsin, I mean, literally didn't do anything. And then Brian called like 3 fullback runs, 2 fullback runs out of the timeout on like the 4th down. And that game was just a disaster. So I'm hoping maybe with John Budmeyer, that's how you pronounce it, coming in, maybe allows the offense to be more fluent, or when they're operating. I don't know your thoughts on that, or if you think he will have much more of a say over Brian, or how that works and whatnot. But well, I mean, we obviously won't know until we see it. But
yeah, he's not allowed to call plays. My understanding is he's not allowed to call plays. So, I mean, to me, the biggest help he's going to be is just one-on-one with Brian, because he also can't teach the kids. So, I would say the biggest impact that he's going to have is going to be route trees. And again, he's not a former wide receiver, but he understands the quarterback position like as good as anybody on that staff, probably better than anybody else on that staff. I think if anything, he's going to help Brian understand how to use Spencer, how to teach Spencer. I mean, boy, it makes me extremely nervous. If you've heard my show for months now, you'll know I'm extremely skeptical about Brian Ferentz coaching quarterbacks, and I think for very good reason. So
yeah, I think we all should be. I mean, there's no reason he should even have the spot right now. So.
And well, what happens when, everyone's talking about Tony Racioppi, and we had Tony Racioppi on this show, and I've got respect for Tony Racioppi, but he's not coaching Spencer Petras during these games. So what happens when Spencer's rattled, or Spencer's, has for some reason has lost some fundamental aspect of quarterback play during a game? He's getting rattled. I mean, yeah, there's some things that just being a coach in general you can help with, but sometimes you need to know how to coach quarterbacks. Like, you can't just the the premise of being a quarterback's coach and not understanding the quarterback position is just sort of baffling to me. And that's basically what Brian has said, that he doesn't really know a ton about quarterback play. He doesn't even know how to throw a football. So, yeah, Iowa fans should hold out hope for John Budmeyer, because I just don't know how much Brian could have learned over the past 4 to 5 months. And I also have not heard from anybody specifically. I know Scott Dockerman brought up the fact that he believes that Brian Ferentz has reached out to NFL people to learn, but I know he hasn't reached out to Coach John Patterson, who, to me, and I'm biased because I love Don. Don would be like number one on my list. He's a QB guru. He's coached the position for years. He lives in Iowa City. I guarantee you, if Brian Ferentz wanted to, he and Don Patterson, he could come over to Don's house, or Don could come over to his house, and they could literally break down tape on a big screen. And I just know he hasn't done that. I'm not saying Don has not said, he's not complaining to me. I just asked him. I said, has Brian reached out to you for this? And he said, no. That's no secret. So that's the concerning part. When those efforts haven't been made, I'm just skeptical. Has he reached out to Chuck Long? Has he reached out to Chuck Hartley? Has he reached out to guys in the league? That's the hope, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I'll say that I'm more skeptical going into this season for sure than last season, especially with Charlie Jones and Tyrone Tracy leaving. I'm more skeptical to watch the offense this year than I was last year. So I hope to God, I mean, you wouldn't think it would get worse, but part of me thinks it possibly can get worse, which you don't want to hope to God it's not true. But like, just the way things go and how Brian Ferentz got promoted QB coach and OC, it's just the whole situation just kind of rubs me the wrong way. But we'll see when it happens. So I'm not going to complain just yet. But I'll call back in like week 3 or 4, and I'll give you my take then.
Okay, sounds good, sir. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, see ya.
Take care. Great calls tonight, folks, and the line is back open, and we've got 56 people on here. Y'all have been troopers, so in just a little bit, coming up before the end of our show, we'll give away one more pair of tickets to the Iowa State Fair. And by the way, if you don't win this evening, I'll go ahead and throw this up here. If you don't win this evening, then be sure to do this. Tune over to our sister website, well, specifically our Facebook page, storycounty.news on Facebook. If you're not familiar with storycounty.news, it's a local news site in Story County, Iowa. But we'll actually be giving away tickets to the State Fair tomorrow during some live streams from the State Fair. So if you go over to the storycounty.news Facebook page, you can enter to win tickets. Read how you can enter the contest to win tickets via storycounty.news. Doesn't matter if you live in Story County. You can still enter by visiting storycounty.news on Facebook. But again, we'll be giving away more tickets tomorrow during live streams from the Iowa State Fair. But we'll give away another ticket here, or another pair of tickets, before we end the show this evening. I don't want to miss anybody. Ray says, I got Iowa winning the West. I think QB play and place kicker is the only concern I have. The defense will be better, and the line and running game will be better. Just my opinion. Fair assessment, Ray. I would challenge you a bit on the offensive line, but I do think the running game will be better. I actually am not too worried about place kicking, and I'll talk about that in the coming days and weeks. I think Iowa's going to be just fine at place kicker. Heard really good things about Drew Stevens. Sounds like he's kicking at a really high level. Now, it's different when you get in Kinnick. We're going to see him Saturday at the open scrimmage. But I have high hopes for Drew Stevens, who I do believe will win this job, even though Blom was listed as the starter on the preseason depth chart. Hawkeye Howard got called into work early. Thank you for still being here. Hawkeye Howard, the big question is, will I predict an undefeated season? That's the question we're all wondering, Hawkeye Howard. Will you predict an undefeated season? You did it last year, and you almost had your wish come true. Much of the season, you were right. Casey thinks Keegan Johnson will have a breakout year. I just hope he's healthy, Casey. That's my big question mark right now. Scott says he can't come to the fair because he's in Illinois. Scott, I hope you can at least make it to an Iowa game this year. Appreciate you listening nonetheless. JP, would you rather have Iowa go 8-4 with a win versus Nebraska? Nebraska goes 5-7, or Iowa go 9-3, lose to Nebraska, who goes 9-3 and wins the West on a tiebreaker? Let me break this down in my own mind again, JP. Would I rather have Iowa go 8-4 with a win versus Nebby, who goes 5-7, or Iowa go 9-3, lose to Nebraska, who goes 9-3 and wins the West on a tiebreaker? Who wins the West on a tiebreaker? Does Nebraska win the West because of the head-to-head against Iowa? In that case, I'd much rather. Well, that's a good question, actually. I'd rather go 9-3, better record, right? I don't care if they lose. You don't want them to lose to Nebraska, just like you don't want to lose to Iowa State, but a better record's a better record. Good question, though. Good question. Hair Trigger 83 says we need a Sean Green level running game. Boy, wouldn't that be great? Lemansky brings up, yes, Lachey's dad is, I believe you're right, the color commentator for Ohio State. Hawks all day. Good to see you here. The freshman running backs will be freaks by the time they leave, just hoping they don't transfer because they are both wanting to play as freshmen. And I think they will play as freshmen, maybe not to the extent that they want, but to play as true freshmen when you did not enroll early. Neither one of these guys enrolled early. That's impressive if they can achieve that, which I think they will. Scott, the call-in number is at the bottom of the screen. If you missed it, 515-635-1601. Scott says 2 points. I missed most of your show waiting for the baby to go to sleep. It sounds like the David Cobb rumor was just that. Scott, I have not seen the photos from today. I don't know if you're implying that he was pictured. But yeah, there are rumors that were out there that he was maybe looking to leave, which I could not. I contacted a couple sources who both told me that they had not heard that, and that has not been, that's not out there. I mean, it's out there because someone wanted to create that rumor, but I have no reason to think it's true. We'll see what happens Friday when we get to talk with the players and the coaches. Mike, good to see you here, Mike. Scott says, also given that at one time we fielded a team where Mark Wiseman was our only running back, I also expect us to be able to run the ball with at least one of the 4 running backs. I sure hope so. And Wiseman was that downhill runner. If you're going to be depleted, you better have a guy who can take a beating. And certainly Mark Wiseman was that guy. Says Mike was at the fair. You're at the fair right now. How are you? Are you setting up, Mike? It's Wednesday. The fair hasn't started yet. Are you setting up? We'll be giving away one more pair of tickets to the State Fair. Brian says tight ends will lead the team in receptions. Lemansky, is the tight end you debate on the Miami show tomorrow still a go? Good question. That has not been confirmed. It is going to happen, Lemansky, but I got to check with Mark Rogers. We're going to have a tight end you debate with this Miami guy over at Mark's Miami at the Voice of College Football channel. So I'm glad you brought that up. I got to check with Mark on that. Let's see. Don't want to miss anybody's questions. Cooper says, you deserve more viewers. Well, thank you. I'm a little surprised. First of all, thank you to everybody who's been here. We've had, anywhere from 50 to 70 people in there this whole show. I am thankful to every one of you. I'm a little surprised we haven't had more because we're giving away free tickets. I don't know. I thought that would attract more people. We still got 24 days to the season, but I'm a little bit surprised with the numbers, but that's okay. I appreciate everybody being here. Let's get to our next caller. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line? Hello. Hello.
Hello. My bad.
Okay. You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. It's James again.
Hey, James.
I was thinking something, how a wide receiver room's kind of beat up. So some teams use a tight end as a wide receiver. Do you think there's a chance Stylianos could play outside? Maybe you still put Arlen Bruce inside and then put the other wide receiver outside, Vines or something like that?
Are you asking?
I don't know how big Stylianos is.
Yeah, Stylianos, I don't see Stylianos playing outside. I mean, let me see what he's listed at right now.
I know some teams do that though, so that could be an option because if they don't feel comfortable with they don't have many options, or they don't feel comfortable with somebody after that, maybe just throw somebody outside for a play or two and slot or whatever. Because you can still make a slot a mock tight end in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I would say there's a greater chance that you have one of the other tight ends lining up in different spots. I don't, again, I've not seen Stylianos in an Iowa jersey. We'll see him Saturday. I'm hoping, but see, Stylianos is listed at, he's listed at 6'5", 264. Now to put that in perspective, Laporta's listed at 6'4", 249. So Stylianos has got 15 pounds on Laporta and an inch. I think he's a guy who's going to be lined up in your typical spot along on the end of the offensive line, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Laporta or Lachey lining up outside at times. I'm going to say outside. I don't see them lining those guys up way outside. I'm talking maybe in the slot at times. None of those guys possess the skill set that like a Noah Fant or the athleticism that Noah Fant did, because Noah Fant was almost a hybrid tight end. But I do think, like I said earlier, I think you're going to see two or three, especially two tight end sets, a lot more, maybe some three tight end set stuff. But we just got to see where Stylianos, if he can block, he's going to see the field, because you're right. They need guys who can do both. And if you can have a tight end out there who's a threat to catch the ball while also being a good blocker in the running game, that's going to be the difference. But I'm sure that's the biggest learning curve for Stylianos going from the Patriot League to the Big Ten, is can he block at the Big Ten level? And that's the question.
And then another question I had, I put it in the chat. You didn't get to it. Sorry, it happens sometimes. But like, I was wondering who you think is going to be the most impactful freshman. Like, I always bring up like Josue Patterson and Caleb Johnson, TJ Hall, like X. Who do you think has the brightest future? Like, obviously, I think X in the cast spot is kind of something where he shines, especially watching him in high school, if that makes sense. But like, I didn't see TJ Hall very much, but we do really good at the DBs and like developing defensive backs. So I feel like he has a room to grow. But I was just wondering who you think the best freshman will be in the future. Like,
well, first of all, James, you're selling me short. I didn't forget your comment. I had it over here. I was going to put it up here in a little bit. I like, first of all, I've been high on both Jazzy and Patterson and Caleb Johnson since they committed. I really like TJ Hall and Xavier Wampa. Honestly, I'm high. I think I'm highest on a guy who's not listed. You know who that is?
Who?
Aaron Graves.
Yeah, I forgot about him. I mean, he do need pass rush. He does remind me a lot of like some of the pass rushers there. Like, I'm not trying to obviously compare him to AJ Epinesa, but I do see some flashes in him. Well, the one thing that kind of scares me too is like just a small town Iowa. It scares me a little bit. But Josie Jewell did it where he was. Bo Bauer did it where he played 8-man football, and then
look. I mean, we got to see Aaron Graves in the All-Star game, whatever that was, back in the spring on NBC. And that guy, it doesn't matter if he was at Southeast Valley. He is a freak athletically. I see Aaron Graves making impact. So I do see Aaron Graves playing, and I'll talk more about which freshman I foresee playing. But I think all the guys that you listed here and Aaron Graves will play. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brian Allen out there as well. He enrolled early. He's another guy who's kind of flying under the radar. Maybe missing some Bostic. Bostic's going to play. Good question, though. I think all those guys will play.
I think he'll play, especially if you're hurt. He has to play, which could be good for the long run, I guess. But I think it'd be interesting to see how we recruit wide receivers. Because if I remember, I don't think we have any in 2023. But I do know Bryson Vowell is like a 3-star who crystal balls Iowa right now. But like, I don't think we really have any towards Iowa right now. It's kind of hurtful because we can't recruit wide receivers. It's kind of be a struggle if we can't get the guys we need.
They have one. They have Alex Moda out of Marion. He's the only guy.
Yeah. I forgot Moda switching over. I forget he played quarterback, so that kind of confused me at first. But
yeah, and I think he'll be good. He's got the athleticism, but yeah, no, they need to do some work. They got Bryson Vowell coming in September, and they're certainly on some 24 guys, but they're gonna have to do work in 23. You might see them use the portal more than they typically would.
I hope so, but it was good talking to you. Enjoy the show.
Appreciate it, James. Appreciate you calling in. And again, great questions. All right, folks. When we come back, another chance to win tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Iowa State Fair tickets, and we'll finish up with your look, you were that banner. We'll finish up with your calls and comments here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Stick right here. We'll be back in 60 seconds. You may have heard of the real-life Hawkeye man cave known as Kinnick Under the Kitchen. Well, after lots of hard work, there's not much space left to paint, but the walls are exploding out for public consumption. Under the Kitchen is proud to announce that you can now purchase exclusive prints of some of your favorite Hawkeye legends, including wrestling great Spencer Lee, football players Tyler Goodson, Riley Moss, and Drew Tate, plus an all-in-one Murray family legacy print featuring Keegan, Chris, and Kenyon Murray himself. Signed and unsigned prints are available, making the perfect collectible or gift for any Hawkeye enthusiast. For more information on purchasing one of these outstanding Hawkeye prints, visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook. That's Under the Kitchen on Facebook. So appreciate Under the Kitchen. Randy Engel doing great work. Want to let everybody know this as well, that Randy Engel is going to be at Fry Fest. He'll have a booth at Fry Fest, which is September 2nd this year. And he'll have some interesting framing options available with these prints and continuous work. I know he just finished one with Tavian Banks. He's got one with Arlen Bruce. Lots of great stuff, man. I mean, he continues to pump out stuff, great Hawkeye artwork. Check him out. Go to Facebook and search Under the Kitchen on Facebook, and then check out his booth, Under the Kitchen's booth at the Fry Fest on September 2nd. Again, that's September 2nd for Fry Fest and Under the Kitchen. All right, folks, your final chance to win tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Be caller number 7 at 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. Call now or forever hold your peace. If you've not already subscribed, please do that as well. The number is on the bottom of the screen. Caller number 7 for our final pair that we're giving away tonight. Iowa State Fair tickets. 515-635-1601. Caller number one for our State Fair tickets. And the line is open as we continue to filter through. I'll continue to go through your comments here as we await our 7th caller. OS for Hawk says, curious on your win-loss predictions for Hawkeye football season. I'm not going to give you that yet because I want to tease that a bit for later this month when I make my official predictions. But I said it a long time ago. I see Iowa struggling to hit 10 wins without an improved offense with the schedule. Now, will they improve the offense? That's possible, but I'll save my win-loss prediction for later on this month. Stick right here, OS for Hawks, because I'll give you that here later this month. Thank you for this, Hair Trigger. Appreciate the compliment on the post-game show. Well, you've been here since, I think, about the beginning of the post-game show last year, so appreciate your support. DC Hawkeye just had an idea. You should reach out to the Iowa Alumni Association, offer to post and talk about their scheduled activities throughout the country. So many fans within the association would love your content. There are a couple thousand alumni and fans just in the National Capital Iowa Alumni Association alone. Appreciate that recommendation, DC Hawkeye, and I'd be more than happy to talk with them. Appreciate that. Cooper, who is the new guy, the walk-on, who throws down dunks? I could see him stepping up and being annoying in the best way like Joe T. So you're talking basketball. Amarion Nimmers is who you're talking about from Quad Cities. They've been doing well in the Quad Cities area. Nimmers is a guy who could end up being a scholarship guy. I could see him earning a scholarship maybe year one. Maybe not. Certainly that's not typically Fran's way, giving out a scholarship to a walk-on that early. But I've heard great things about him as a competitor. His athleticism is what jumps off the screen, and certainly he had opportunities to go other places and decided to stick right here. Caller number two here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We're looking for caller number 7. At 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. We've already given away 2 pairs of tickets. We're giving away 1 final pair of tickets. Caller number 3. Getting closer, folks. We're getting closer. Caller number 3. And David with the Super Chat. David Schneider. Thank you, David. Albuquerque, Iowa Club supports our Hawks. Thanks. Love the show and all the fan interaction. Appreciate that, David. Appreciate you being here and the support from the Albuquerque, Iowa Club. Thank you so much, sir. Apologize for the bots. Appreciate all the compliments out here this evening, folks. Do appreciate it. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for the support as well. We are waiting for our seventh caller. We've had 3 callers here for the final. It seems like people wait till the 7th. We have to be able to get to 7 calls. We have to be able to get to 6 before we can get to 7, folks. So if you're waiting until to be the 7th caller, go ahead and just call in. There's caller number 4 here. And we're waiting. What would that be? 3 left, right? 5, 6, and 7. I can count. It's not that late. I can still count. All right, caller number 5. Caller number 5. 2 more calls away from giving away our final pair of tickets to the Iowa State Fair, which starts on the 11th. That's tomorrow and runs through the 21st. Okay, a couple things before I know we're waiting our 7th caller, but I want to mention a couple other things to you. If you're not familiar with what we're doing here from the Hawkeye of the Storm, we also partner with a guy named Mark Rogers, who's the voice of college football. We do a live show every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. 4:30 p.m. Central Time, Iowa football at the voice of college football. So check out his stuff and our show every Tuesday at the voice of college football. Caller number 6 here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. From the Hawkeye of the Storm. It must be getting late because I'm starting to lose my ability to speak. But yes, again, check out our show every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. You can also check out our podcast from the Hawkeye of the Storm. All of our shows with Mark Rogers, as well as our longer our streams and our podcasts right here. You can listen to the audio formats over on Spotify, Apple, Google, and more. We've had 6 callers. We're awaiting caller number 7 for our final 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair. We're awaiting our 7th caller. The number is on your screen, folks. We've had people call, and now people aren't calling. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. I know why people aren't calling. I got rid of my call-in line. Okay, now it's back open. Apologize for that. 515-635-1601. I don't know why I hit the exit button on that one. But our next caller wins a pair of tickets to the Iowa State Fair, which will be mailed out tomorrow. Culbertson Clan. I'd like to see Carson do a few snaps in game 1 and 3. So you're talking about the South Dakota State and Nevada games. I don't see that happening, Culbertson Clan. I don't. That's not really a Kirk Ferentz thing to do, to play the guy 4th on the depth chart. But I'm fine with that. I'd love to see some Labus and actually give these backup quarterbacks, some meaningful snaps. We're not talking handoffs to the running back when you're up 40. I'm talking meaningful snaps where you're actually running your offense. I think that would serve Iowa well. Dennis, appreciate this, Dennis. Thank you for being here as well. And I want to remind everybody one more time, we've had 7, Johnny O Show, thank you. We've had 6 callers, and we can't get a 7th. So it's 10:10. People are going to bed. He's got 50 people on here. We're trying to give away our final pair of tickets. And yes, Johnny O Show is family, so he can't win. Eric says, fairs don't do it for me after being to Cedar Point. Hope someone gets the tickets and enjoys them. Yes, 7th caller. We're waiting the 7th caller. And I guess if nobody calls as our 7th caller, then I guess we'll give them away tomorrow on our live streams at the State Fair over at storycounty.news. So we'll leave the call line open here for another minute. And if nobody else calls, then so be it. We'll move on. Just trying to make sure I'm not missing anybody here in the chat. And I'm sure I did earlier, so I apologize if I did. I want to address, maybe I did get this question earlier, but I feel like it's worth addressing again, even if I did. Thomas brings up Vines. I think we talked about Deontay Vines, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is that he develops, given the fact that they're potentially down their top 3 guys from last year. I think you can make the argument that Tracy, at least at times last year, Tracy, Jones, and Keegan Johnson were your top 3. So you have Keegan Johnson and Nico Reganey coming back, but boy, they need someone to step up, whether it be Brecht or Vines. I haven't seen Brecht in these photos, so you hope that Vines can step up. But yeah, I hope that what we're seeing in these photos and then these little B-roll video or these little highlight clips, hope that's an indication that Deontay Vines has taken a step forward, because they could use his help at receiver. Eric says he was going to call to get 6, but someone did already to get to 6. Eric's not a State Fair guy, but I appreciate you supporting. Yeah, the Johnny O Show says if you win them, you can resell them. That's true. Yeah, I'm not telling you what to do with them. Apparently, nobody wants to be the 7th caller. Yes, Eric, there was a video on Twitter showing Deontay Vines catching over TJ Hall, who, again, I expect to play this year. So maybe Vines is working with the 2. And yes, hair trigger. I understand that Arlen Bruce produced more in the end than Tracy did. But at the beginning of the season, people thought Tracy was going to be potentially all Big Ten. Think about that. And it just kind of disappeared as the season went on. Hawks all day. Jarrett Bowie is another receiver trending towards the Hawks like Vowell. Yes, and I'd have to look up. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Jarrett Bowie. So he is a 2023 guy, and I believe he and Vowell are really the only guys left, I believe, that Iowa's in on. Let me pull this up. So this is according to 247 Sports. I think those are the only 2 guys left. So Chase Hendricks is listed here, but Chase Hendricks is not coming to Iowa. I don't know if they're still actively recruiting him, but I have not heard anything about Chase Hendricks in a while. So those are the 3 guys that 247 lists as it relates to being 2023 wide receivers: Bowie, Vowell, and Hendricks. All right, this is the final call, folks. The final call to win 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair. If you call this number, it's literally this simple. You call the number 515-635-1601, and I literally send you 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair. It's very simple. All right, maybe our 50 callers here either don't live in the state or 50 watchers are not in the state of Iowa or just don't like the State Fair, but I'm offering you free tickets. I didn't think it'd be this difficult to get 3 pairs of tickets. We had a plethora of calls for our first 2 giveaways during the show, but we can always save these for the StoryCounty.news live stream. So, all right. Well, we'll leave it at that. No calls right now. Congratulations to both Justin and Chad. I'll be getting in touch with you as soon as this show is completed in just moments and arranging to get you your tickets to the Iowa State Fair. Appreciate everybody being here for Hawkeye Hangout, folks. And I promise more content is on the way. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on. Please hit the like button. It helps me in the algorithm, which ultimately helps me produce more content. Please share the show on social media. If you're interested in sponsoring or donating, you can find information in the description below. All right, now we got somebody calling. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is Bill Rice.
Bill, are you calling for our ticket giveaway?
I am.
Hey! Bill came through for us. Bill, the man, the myth, the legend, Bill. Bill. You're not the Mr. Bill from Saturday Night Live, are you?
Oh no.
Okay, well
but I remember him.
You're my second. You're my second favorite Bill then, because I loved Mr. Bill. Congratulations, you've won 2 tickets to the State Fair.
All right, thank you, Corey. I appreciate what you're doing with the show. I've been listening for a while, and I'm a longtime Hawk fan, and just really appreciate that. Sometimes I think we got to consider the developmental aspect of things, and sometimes we get too caught up in the wins and losses. But
true,
I think that you're doing a good service. I think that we do need to get a little bit more aggressive as far as getting a better offense. And through all that. So,
All fair points,
Appreciate
and always good to keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, I'll be getting in touch with you here in a few minutes. Congratulations.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, that took a while, but Bill came through for us. So how about Bill? Bill. Loving it. All right, folks. If it doesn't sound like people here are too amped about the state fair, but if you want a chance to win tickets to the state fair tomorrow, head over to storycounty.news, our sister website, but check out storycounty.news on Facebook, and you'll be able to find information on how to enter the contest for Iowa State Fair tickets. More chances to win over at storycounty.news on Facebook, our live streams tomorrow from the state fair. Appreciate everybody being here, folks. We'll talk to you soon.